God is my father, my creator, my love. He is the figure that people look up to in times of need or trouble.
The way to true freedom.
He made all things good and evil.
All-knowing and the Most High.
Omnipotent being that overlooks all people.
He is someone that we go to when we're in trouble or when we feel overjoyed with happiness to thank him for all he has done.
Who is merciful, someone superior to all others.
God is the creator of everything.
Made up inspirational character to
Pray to
allow the
and
masses to have something to believe in.
worship in any way.
I'd like to begin this conversation about God by addressing the standpoint for people's disbelief in Zer. Atheists claim that God doesn't exist and that we made him up in our minds. But by definition, God is bigger than our minds. They argue that God and religion are irrational and historically inaccurate, although it's the complete opposite. Contemplate the concept of zero. Zero is the thing the other numbers are contingent on. What was there before 1? 0? Was 0 here before the universe and 1 just showed up by chance? No, there was God before 1. Saying that 0 existed before everything seems pretty irrational, especially considering that so many complex developments in evolution and advancements in technology have arisen within the past 4 to 5 billion years. So the concept of a non-contingent God of which everything came from is the most logical and rational answer.
I believe in God. He's the most powerful being that ever exists.
From that first statement alone, I'd like to break it down to address the 6 conceptions of God. There's pantheism, pantheism, deism, biblical theism, philosophical theism, and naturalist reductionism. In the most simplest terms, pantheism is seeing the earth or everything as God. Pantheism is seeing that God is different from nature, but they're still somehow connected. Deism is seeing the universe as a clock or simulation, that God made a perfect mechanical universe. Biblical theism refers to revelations that if it's in a book, those are the words of God. Philosophical theism has to do with the arguments in philosophy in relation to God, and the naturalist reductionism refers to breaking down everything in terms of science. Judging from my dad's Catholic background and what he said, it could be applied that he's seeing God from a biblical theist standpoint.
During my earlier days, maybe younger days, maybe 10 years old, it was very hard for me to combine science and theology, especially fusing the theory of evolution, combine it with the Genesis, the Garden of Eden. During those days, I was torn between on what to believe. Would there be heaven or earth, life after death, angels, God, or simply us human will die like any other creatures? It was a very long journey for me to take. I was looking for answers. Sometimes I got answers, but those answers lead to another question. As years go by, I read books, and I think that I could join discussion and all that kind of stuff. It does bother me when somebody told me, "What, we're just gonna die just like any other creature. No such thing as soul." That one bothers me, especially when all your good deeds, being a good Christian, will be like doing good for nothing. Sometimes I think the Bible as a 2,000-year-old story. I would like to believe the Bible during that time, but something that doesn't add up. During that time, I really hope and wish the Bible is real. Because of that, I need evidence, proofs, clues, whatever I could get. Part of this journey, when you were grade 4 or 5, I helped you with a science report regarding the earliest man. And we both found out that from from caveman to a modern human being such as what we call Homo sapiens was one big evidence that I found out. All of a sudden, they evolved from Neanderthal to a modern man for a short period of time. So that is one of the proofs that I already have that science and the teaching of Bible can perhaps work hand in hand in order for me to understand who God was, what is my purpose. Then I ran into a book explains the difference between macro and micro evolution, and it does explain that science is explaining that our evolution was by chance, but from what I understand, there was a divine intervention. Therefore, I really believe in God, and everybody has a purpose.
A lot of what my dad said can be traced to some things we discussed in class. For example, he mentioned combining science and theology and the sudden evolution from Neanderthal to Homo sapiens. This is similar to the eyeball discussion that we had in class. The fact that in only 4 billion years, natural selection and evolution could make something as profound and complex as the working human eyeball is almost impossible. There was a very low probability that this phenomenon would happen without God. There must have been some divine intervention. And a second point, although I can't find the specific lecture, it was mentioned that Christians and other religious figures, or those who believe in God, were the ones who came up with the scientific approach to God, and that they don't necessarily oppose each other. For example, the development of the eyes helps support the existence of God. He also mentions inconsistencies in the Bible making it hard to believe. In class, we mentioned the fact that there are many versions of the Bible and that there are different interpretations, for example, the forbidden fruit being sex. And overall, the desire for evidence in the spiritual journey that he described can be related to our class discussions of philosophy in general. How the whole purpose is to be able to argue your viewpoint using evidence and valid premises and conclusions. What I got from this class so far is that we can argue our views about God all we want, or look for God in as many books as possible, but it all comes down to experience. Experiencing God is what makes up what we believe. Our experiences of God determine whether He exists or not. Our experiences influence what approach we take and how we see God. For example, if it's true that the world is emerged mindlessly and soullessly from energy and matter in a godless universe, then tell me why I can sometimes see God in the eyes of a stranger, or in a tree, or feel God when certain coincidences happen, or when I see my loved ones, or when I sit down and practice mindfulness, or try to get down and learn from a tree. If what I'm experiencing is not God, then there is no God. Because God is the ultimate experience, and I've experienced her in so many ways in my life. As Professor Zane said, I don't know what God is, but something's happening.
One night to push and scream.